When I first looked at the stack of research for today's deep dive, I had this very specific, very physical reaction.
Mm.
I wanted to put it back in the drawer.
You wanted to hide from it.
I did.
Yeah.
I absolutely did. Because usually, we're here talking about, I don't know, the history of coffee or some new tech breakthrough or productivity hacks.
Right.
But today,
Gosh.
we are staring directly at the one thing every single person listening to this, and I mean every single one, is going to have to deal with, and yet nobody wants to talk about.
We are talking about the final written record of a life.
The obituary. And look, I know we are part of the Funeral Channel Network podcast family, so our listeners are probably a little more braced for this conversation than the average person. It's heavy. It's the death notice. It's the thing you read with one eye closed because you're afraid to see a name you know.
That hesitation you felt, that instinct to recoil, that is exactly where the problem starts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That is the root cause of almost every single mistake we are going to talk about today.
Because we're afraid of it.
Because we treat it like a chore. We treat it like a purely administrative task.
Right.
The source material we're breaking down today, writing a meaningful legacy, avoiding common obituary mistakes, makes this point right out of the gate.
Okay.
Most people view the obituary as a box to check. It's like filing a tax return or canceling a subscription. It's just paperwork you have to survive during the worst week of your life.
Right. You're grieving, you're exhausted, people are bringing you casseroles you don't want to eat, and suddenly the funeral director says, I need the obituary by 4:00 p.m. for the Sunday paper.
Exactly.
So you scramble, you type something up, you hit send.
And that is how you end up with a receipt.
A receipt. What do you mean by that?
If you treat it like a transaction, you get a receipt. It lists the dates, the survivors, the service time. It's functional.
Okay, I see.
But if you treat it like what it actually is, which is a historical document and a piece of legacy literature, you end up with a bridge.
I like that distinction. A receipt versus a bridge.
It's a bridge between the raw, immediate pain of the loss and the permanent memory that's going to exist for the next 50 or 100 years.
Wow.
When you mess that up, when you treat it like a receipt, you aren't just writing a boring paragraph. You are potentially setting off landmines.
And that's what really shocked me in the reading. I went in thinking, okay, mistakes. What, like typos?
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't just talking about spelling Mississippi wrong. We are talking about errors that start 20-year family feuds.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about genealogy disasters. We're talking about oversharing that can actually put the surviving family in physical danger.
It is emotionally complex terrain. Think about the headspace you are in when you write this.
Yeah.
You are balancing two completely opposing forces. On one hand, you have grief, which is foggy and confusing and exhausting.
Total fog.
And on the other hand, this document demands absolute clarity, factual precision, and diplomatic grace.
It's like being asked to take the SATs immediately after a car accident.
That is a perfect analogy. That's exactly it. And because most families have zero experience doing this, most people write maybe one or two obituaries in their entire lives. They are flying blind.
Completely.
They are overwhelmed. And that leads to these repeated, avoidable mistakes.
So that is our mission today. We are going to walk through this minefield. We are going to unpack the common obituary mistakes from the source material, but we're going to go deep on why they happen and how to fix them.
Right.
We want to give you a toolkit so that when the time comes, whether it's next week or 10 years from now, you aren't just checking a box. You're building that bridge.
Exactly.
So let's start with the foundation. Before we get to the poetry and the sentiment, we have to talk about the math.
The facts.
The facts.
Yeah.
The source material lists factual errors as the #1 most common mistake.
It seems almost too obvious to mention, doesn't it? Get the facts right. But the error rate is staggering.
This is the part I struggled with. I'm reading this and thinking, how? How do you get the basic facts wrong? These are our parents, our spouses, our children. How do I not know when my own dad was born?
It sounds impossible until you are sitting at that kitchen table.
Okay.
Let's play this out. It's Tuesday morning. Your father passed away late Monday night. You haven't slept in 30 hours. You're running on adrenaline and bad coffee.
Yeah.
Your sister is crying in the corner. Your uncle is pacing around. And someone asks, hey, what was the exact date Dad graduated from college?
And I just freeze. My mind goes blank.
Your brain is flooded with cortisol. Accessing specific data points becomes incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So you turn to your uncle and say, "Do you remember?"
Sure.
And he says, "Oh yeah, it was 68 because that was the year we took that road trip."
And I write down 1968.
And you write it down, but maybe the road trip was 69, or maybe he graduated in December, not June. Memory is malleable, especially collective memory under stress.
Right.
The source material calls this the too many cooks problem.
Everyone is tossing in little factoids, and nobody is checking them.
Exactly. One person thinks they know the military rank. Another person is sure they know the spelling of the maiden name.
And in that moment, you just want to believe them. You want it to be done.
You do. And if no one stops to verify, those errors make it into print.
And once it's in print, it's done. But play devil's advocate for me here. Let's say I get the graduation year wrong by 1 year. Or I say he was a sergeant when he was actually a corporal. Does it really matter?
I mean,
The people who knew him know the truth. The people who didn't know him, well, they don't care. Who are we hurting?
you are hurting two groups of people. First, you're hurting the specific community that values those details.
Okay.
Let's look at the military example because the source material highlights this as a major pain point.
The military details.
Veterans take their service details incredibly seriously. It is a culture of precision.
Right.
There is a massive difference between the Marine Corps and the Army. There is a massive difference between serving in Vietnam and serving during the Vietnam era.
Right. One means you were in the jungle. The other means you might have been in Germany.
Exactly. If you write that your grandfather was a decorated war hero, because that's the family lore,
Yeah.
but his discharge papers, his DD-214, don't reflect that, you are accidentally committing stolen valor on his behalf.
Oof. I never even thought of it that way.
And veterans read obituaries. They look for their own. If they see a glaring error, wrong rank, wrong branch, wrong terminology, it signals disrespect.
Wow.
It feels like the family didn't care enough to get it right. It tarnishes the tribute.
Okay, that makes sense for the immediate community. But you mentioned a second group.
The second group is the future.
The future.
Yeah. This is where we get into the butterfly effect on genealogy. This part really fascinated me.
Yeah, walk me through this, because I think of an obituary as a newspaper clipping. I don't think of it as a database entry.
But in 2024, that's exactly what it is. Obituaries are scraped by bots. They are aggregated onto sites like Ancestry.com, FamilySearch.org, Find a Grave.
So they become the source material.
They become the primary source material for historians and genealogists.
So 50 years from now, my great-granddaughter is trying to build a family tree.
Right. She's sitting at a computer in 2075. She enters the name Smith with a Y. But you, in your exhaustion, wrote Smith with an I.
Oh, no.
Or you got the birth year wrong by 2 years.
And the search engine says no results found.
Exactly. The algorithms rely on these data points to make connections. A single typo in a date or a name can break the chain.
Yeah.
You are effectively severing the link to the past. You are making your loved one invisible to future generations because you didn't double-check a vowel.
That is a huge responsibility. It turns the obituary from a notification into a historical record.
It is a permanent historical record.
So knowing that my brain is mush and my family is unreliable, what is the fix? How do I ensure accuracy when I can barely remember my own name?
You have to stop trusting memory.
Okay.
You have to trust documents.
Trust the paper, not the people.
That's it. The source material is very clear. Cross-check everything against official documents. Dig out the birth certificate. Find the marriage license. Look at the military discharge papers. Find the old resume or the college diploma.
But practically speaking, who has time for that? The funeral's in 3 days. I have to pick out a casket. I have to call the caterer. Do you really expect me to be rummaging through the attic looking for a diploma from 1950?
If you want it to be right, yes.
Okay.
But you don't have to do it yourself. This is where the source offers a brilliant piece of process advice.
I'm listening.
You need to designate an editor-in-chief.
The cold-hearted editor.
Maybe not cold-hearted, but cool-headed. You need to find the one person in your circle who is detail-oriented and maybe a little less emotionally compromised.
Right.
Maybe it's a cousin. Maybe it's a son-in-law.
The person who loves spreadsheets.
Exactly. You give them the job. You say, your only job is to fact-check this. Verify every date, every spelling, every location. Let everyone else tell stories and cry and hug.
Let the editor hunt down the documents.
Let the editor be the bad guy who says, are you sure about that?
That is actually actionable. Because usually we try to do it by committee, and that's a disaster.
A committee writes a camel, as they say. You need one person with a red pen and a stack of documents.
Okay, so we've secured the facts. We know when they were born. We know they were definitely a corporal and not a sergeant. Now we move to Section 2, which is, honestly, it's a modern problem. This wasn't an issue 50 years ago.
The privacy tightrope.
We live in the age of oversharing. We post our breakfasts, our breakups, our surgeries. We are used to radical transparency. But the source material warns that bringing that Instagram mindset into an obituary is a dangerous game.
It is. The mistake here is oversharing private or sensitive information. And there is a real tension here, right? Because on one hand, we want to be authentic.
Right. Tell the real story.
We want to tell the real story. On the other hand, an obituary is a public announcement.
So what are the big red flags here? What counts as oversharing?
There are a few categories. The first is graphic medical details.
Like describing the death itself.
Yes. You'll see obituaries that go into clinical detail about the cancer battle or the nature of the accident.
Oh, wow.
It comes from a place of trauma. The family is replaying it in their heads. But for the reader, it can be disturbing.
Yeah.
It strips the deceased of their dignity in their final moment.
You want to remember how they lived, not the specific medical mechanics of how they died.
Exactly. It's okay to say, after a long battle with cancer or suddenly after a brief illness, you don't need to upload the medical chart.
Then there's the skeleton in the closet issue.
Right.
Addiction, incarceration, legal troubles.
This is a tricky one because recently there has been a movement, which I think is positive, to be more open about addiction, specifically to destigmatize it. You see obituaries saying he lost his battle with opioids to help others.
Right, and the source doesn't say never do this.
No, but it says be careful. The mistake is tossing it in carelessly. If you define the entire life by the struggle, you are doing them a disservice. He was an addict who died of an overdose.
That's brutal.
It is. It reduces a human being to a label.
It ignores the humor, the love, the work, everything else.
But there's an ethical question. Would the deceased have wanted that known?
Yeah.
If your uncle spent 20 years hiding his addiction or his legal troubles because he was ashamed, is it your right to broadcast it to the world on the day he dies?
You're outing them when they can't defend themselves.
Precisely. You have to ask, who is this for? Is it to honor them, or is it to make you feel like you're being edgy and honest?
That brings us to the airing of grievances. I feel like we see these go viral once a year. The rotten hell obituaries.
So the revenge obit.
He will not be missed. The world is a safer place without her. We read them and we gasp and we share them on Twitter.
We do, and the source is very firm on this. The obituary is not the place to settle scores.
Not at all.
It is not the place to explain the complexity of a troubled relationship. It is there to honor the life. But what if the person was terrible? What if the family's angry? I mean, are we asking people to lie?
We aren't asking them to lie. We're asking them to be silent on the parts that don't serve the legacy.
Okay.
The thumper rule. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Because once you ring that bell...
You can't unring it. And here's the thing about those viral revenge obituaries. Who looks bad?
The person who wrote it.
Always. The deceased is gone. They can't be embarrassed. But the surviving child or spouse who wrote the vitriol, they look petty. They look cruel. It stains the reputation of the living much more than the dead.
And it causes collateral damage. I mean, imagine being a grandchild of that person reading that your grandfather was a monster written by your own parent.
It creates a permanent rift. It's using a megaphone to scream about family trauma. It's just not the venue.
There's also a safety aspect of privacy that I hadn't really thought about until I read the source.
Oh, yeah.
The Home Alone risk.
Oh, this is a very practical, very scary reality. Do not list exact home addresses. Right. Like, the funeral procession will leave from 123 Maple Street at 10:00 a.m.
You are telling the world, including burglars, that the house at 123 Maple Street will be empty between 10:00 a.m. and 2:00 p.m.
That is terrifying.
It happens. Burglars scan obituaries for exactly this information.
Law.
They know the family is distracted. They know the house is empty, so keep it vague. The family home. Or just list the funeral home's address.
And contact info, too. Don't put your personal cell phone number in the paper.
No, unless you want scams, harassment, and weirdos calling you at 3 a.m., use the funeral home as the buffer. That's what they are paid for.
So the expert advice offers a litmus test for all of this. I loved this visual.
The read aloud test.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, would the deceased feel comfortable with this being read aloud to strangers?
Imagine them standing in the room.
If your grandmother was intensely private, and you're writing about her financial struggles or her health issues, visualize her face. If she would be mortified, cut it.
It's about respect. It's not about censorship. It's about respecting the boundaries they held while they were alive.
Exactly. Death doesn't give you permission to violate their privacy.
Okay, so we are keeping it accurate and we are keeping it dignified. Now let's talk about the writing itself. Section 3. The resume trap. This is where so many obituaries fail to connect emotionally.
This is the difference between a death notice and a life story.
I see this all the time. You read an obituary and it feels cold.
Yeah.
It's just a list.
Right.
He was born, he went to school, he worked at General Motors, he died.
It's the LinkedIn profile for the dead.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's a resume. Why do we do that? Why do we reduce a colorful, vibrant life to a list of employers and dates?
Fear.
Fear, really.
Fear of looking foolish. Fear of being too sentimental. We are afraid of being cheesy.
Okay.
So we retreat to the safety of facts. Facts are safe. He worked at GM for 30 years is an indisputable fact. He had a laugh that could shake the windows. Feels vulnerable to write.
So we armor up with bureaucracy.
We do. And we end up with what the source calls the generic tribute. And usually this manifests in tone mismatches.
What do you mean by tone mismatch?
Well, think about your Uncle Joe. Let's say Uncle Joe was a blue-collar guy, loved a cold beer, loved the Steelers, told dirty jokes, wore flannel shirts.
I know the type. I think we all do.
And then you read his obituary, and it says, Mr. Joseph Smith was a distinguished gentleman who pursued excellence in the automotive arts and was a pillar of the community.
It sounds like he was a senator from 1890.
Exactly. The reader thinks, who is this? I thought this was Joe. The language is stiff, ceremonial, Victorian. It creates a disconnect.
It doesn't sound like him.
Not at all. And the reverse can happen, too.
The too casual mistake.
Yes. This is where families try to be funny or edgy, but it lands wrong. Joe kicked the bucket on Tuesday. He hated the Steelers and loved whiskey.
A little jarring.
It can come off as disrespectful or just confusing to people outside the inner circle. Jokes and sarcasm are very hard to convey in print to a general audience.
So how do we find the middle ground? How do we capture the essence without being stiff or disrespectful?
You have to change the questions you ask yourself before you start writing. Don't ask, what was his job title?
Ask what?
Ask, what was he like?
Dig for the adjective.
Was he spiritual? Was he quiet? Was he the life of the party? Was he grumpy but lovable?
Okay.
And then, and this is the writer's secret, let the syntax mirror the personality.
Give me an example of that.
If she was a gentle, poetic soul who loved gardening and classical music, write in soft, longer, descriptive sentences. She found her greatest joy among her roses.
Smooth. Flowing.
But if he was a brash, loud, high-energy salesman, use punchy sentences. He never took no for an answer. He lived aloud. He loved hard.
Short, staccato. I get it.
You are using the rhythm of the words to evoke the rhythm of the person.
The source has a hack for checking this, right? The read aloud hack again?
Yes, but specifically for voice. Read the draft out loud to yourself. If you stumble over the words, if it feels like you are putting on a costume, change it.
If you sound like a robot, rewrite it.
Right. But if you read it and you can almost hear their voice in the room, if it makes you smile because it sounds like them, you've got it.
That leads us perfectly into Section 4, the human element.
Yeah.
Because to capture that voice, you need more than just style. You need substance.
You need details.
Yeah.
This is the antidote to the resume trap. The mistake here is the mistake of omission, saying too little.
I think sometimes people worry about the cost, right? Newspapers charge by the line.
That is a real factor. It can get expensive. But the argument here is that you don't need more words. You need better words. You don't need a novel. You just need a few specific brushstrokes.
The source gives some great examples of this.
Yeah. Compare these two sentences. Sentence A, he was a generous man who loved his community.
Nice. A bit generic, but nice.
Sentence B, he spent every Saturday morning shoveling snow for his elderly neighbors.
Boom. I can see him.
You see the snow shovel, you see the breath in the cold air, you see the action. He was generous is a claim. He shoveled snow is proof.
He loved his family versus he never missed a grandchild's recital.
Exactly. She was a good cook versus her Sunday lasagna was legendary.
It's the specificity that connects.
It humanizes them. Even if I didn't know the person, if I read, he loved to restore vintage radios and always smelled like sawdust and solder, I feel like I know him.
Yeah, I can smell the sawdust.
Exactly. It shifts the document from a death notice to a life story. It makes the reader feel the loss, which is the point.
It invites the stranger into the grief. It says, look at this specific wonderful thing the world just lost.
That's it, exactly.
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
brace yourself. We are moving into what I think is the most dangerous territory of all. Section 5. The minefield.
The family listing.
The source calls this family listings and dynamics, but honestly, reading through the potential pitfalls, it felt like reading a guide on how to defuse a bomb.
It is absolutely a bomb. In my analysis of funeral conflicts, the list of survivors is the #1 source of post-funeral resentment.
Why? It's just a list of names.
Because names carry power. Inclusion implies belonging,
Mhm.
exclusion implies rejection, and the order implies hierarchy.
Hierarchy, that's the kicker.
It is the Game of Thrones section of the obituary. Who comes first? Who gets left out? Who gets a title?
Let's look at the blended family scenario, because this is so common now.
It's everywhere.
The Brady Bunch scenario, but with more baggage.
Stepchildren are the most common casualty here.
Right.
Let's say a man marries a woman who has 2 kids from a previous marriage. He helps raise them for 20 years. He loves them,
Okay,
but he never legally adopted them.
got it.
He dies. His brother writes the obituary. The brother thinks in terms of blood, so he lists the biological children, but he leaves out the stepchildren because technically they aren't his kids.
Oh, the pain.
Those stepchildren just lost a father figure, and now publicly, in the record, they're told, you didn't count. You weren't real family.
That is devastating, and that resentment lasts forever.
Forever, you don't come back from that.
And then there's the order of operations.
Listing the siblings before the children, or listing the current wife after the children from the first marriage in a way that feels like a slight.
Or listing the special friend instead of the partner.
Yes, exactly. And the ex-spouse dilemma.
A total minefield.
A total minefield. If the divorce was amicable, do you list them? If it was bitter, do you ignore them?
And what about the estranged child? The black sheep.
This is the hardest ethical question. Let's say Dad hadn't spoken to his son John in 15 years.
Okay.
Dad explicitly said, I have no son named John.
Do you list John in the obituary?
If you list him, you might be disrespecting Dad's wishes.
Oh.
If you don't list him, John is erased from the family history.
Yeah.
And if John shows up at the funeral and sees his name missing,
It causes a scene.
it causes a scene. It shifts the focus. Suddenly the funeral isn't about Dad. It's about, why does the family hate John?
So what is the strategy here? Because these families are messy. You can't fix 20 years of dysfunction in a 300-word paragraph.
The strategy is communication. You cannot assume. The source warns. Assumptions cause pain. You have to have the uncomfortable conversations before the paper goes to print.
You have to call the ex-wife. You have to call the stepkids.
You have to say, we are writing the obituary. How would you like to be listed? Is everyone okay with this order?
And if they aren't, if the family is at war, if the second wife and the first wife are fighting over the adjective beloved,
The source suggests the nuclear option.
which is,
Neutral wording.
what does that look like?
You stop listing names
Entirely.
entirely, or you group them. He is survived by his loving family. He leaves behind a large circle of children and grandchildren.
It feels generic.
It is safer than a lawsuit. It is safer than a fist fight in the church lobby.
That's a fair point. A very fair point.
The key quote from the source here is vital. The obituary should not become a battleground for unresolved family issues.
Right.
If listing the names causes a war, don't list the names.
Peace over precision.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on to Section 6. Cultural competence and organization. This is about respect for how different people view death.
We live in a diverse society. A one-size-fits-all approach to obituaries leads to mistakes.
What are the common oversights here?
The big one is the secular-religious divide.
Explain that.
If someone was deeply, profoundly religious, if their faith was the core of their identity, and you write a secular, corporate-style obituary that never mentions God, church, or their spiritual life, you have missed the point of their existence.
It feels hollow to the people who knew them.
It feels like erasure. And the reverse is true. If Uncle Bob was a staunch atheist and you write that he is with the angels now and looking down from heaven, you are projecting your beliefs onto his life. It's disrespectful.
It's about meeting the deceased where they were.
Also, titles. In some cultures and religions, titles matter immensely.
Yeah.
Deacon, elder, doctor, sister.
Right.
Omitting those titles is a sign of ignorance or disrespect.
And timing. The source mentioned timing restrictions.
Very practical. Jewish traditions often require burial very quickly, sometimes within 24 hours.
Okay.
Some traditions have specific days where you cannot hold a service. If you blindly schedule a service that conflicts with the religious requirements of the community,
You create chaos.
you create a situation where the most important people can't attend, or where the soul is considered unsettled.
The fix here seems to be, don't guess.
Ask. Consult the religious leaders. Consult the elders. Consult the funeral director. They're experts in this. It is not your job to know everything. It is your job to ask the people who do.
Now let's talk about the physical structure of the thing, the wall of text.
Oh, we have all seen this. You open the newspaper or the web page, and it is one giant, dense block of text.
No paragraphs.
No paragraph breaks, 500 words of gray.
My eyes just glaze over. I can't do it.
It is physically hard to read and emotionally hard to process. You are asking a grieving reader to wade through a swamp of text to find out where the funeral is.
So what is the ideal structure? Is there a template?
The source outlines a very logical narrative arc. Think of it as a story with a beginning, middle, and end.
Walk us through it.
Step 1. The announcement. Who passed, when, and briefly how. John Doe passed away peacefully on Tuesday.
Got it.
Step 2. The biography. The life overview. Born here, schooled there, worked here.
Resume part, but sure.
Exactly. Step 3. The essence. This is the human element section. The stories, the hobbies, the character.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. Step 4. The survivors. The list we just navigated.
Why?
And finally, step 5. The call to action. Service info, where to send flowers, where to donate.
That makes so much sense. It guides the reader.
It respects the reader's time and attention. It flows logically from the bad news to the celebration of life to the family to what you can do about it.
Okay, we have built the perfect obituary. We have the facts, the dignity, the tone, the details, the family list sorted out, and the structure's clean. Now, in Section 7, we need to zoom out. We need to look at the big picture. Legacy.
This brings us back to where we started, the ultimate mistake.
Viewing it as a task.
Viewing it as a chore. If you rush through it just to get it done, you miss the chance to do something profound.
What can an obituary actually do? Beyond just telling people someone died.
It can inspire.
Inspire. How so?
Think about it. When you read about someone who survived the Great Depression or overcame a disability or raised 5 kids on a shoestring budget with a smile on their face,
Yeah.
doesn't that make you want to be better?
It does. It puts your own problems in perspective.
It transmits values. It tells the community this is what a good life looks like.
It can also be a vehicle for gratitude.
That is a beautiful trend we are seeing, publicly thanking the caregivers. The family wishes to thank the nurses on the 4th floor at Mercy Hospital.
That means the world to those nurses. I mean, they're not expecting it.
It does. And it offers closure. Writing it helps the writer process the loss. It forces you to sit down and summarize the life. It forces you to articulate what you loved. That is part of the healing.
The source mentions resources like the funeral program site that encourage patience.
Yes, the advice is take a breath. I know the clock is ticking. I know the newspaper has a deadline. But this is a legacy document.
Your great-grandchildren might read this.
Exactly. Write it for them. Write it so that 50 years from now, someone can pick it up and say, wow, I wish I had met him.
It's a shift in perspective. It's not paperwork. It's history.
It is the final chapter of their history.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We moved from the nitty-gritty of fact-checking discharge papers to navigating the minefield of step families, all the way to defining a legacy.
It is a journey, and it's a hard one.
As we wrap up, what is the one big takeaway you want our listeners to hold on to? If they forget everything else, what should they remember?
For me, it is the expert's final summary. It's not about perfection.
Right.
You might make a typo. You might phrase something slightly awkwardly. That's okay.
It doesn't have to be Pulitzer Prize material.
It just needs 3 things: respect, honesty, and love. If those 3 things are the driving force, if you are writing from a place of love, checking facts out of respect, and telling the story with honesty, you will write something meaningful.
Respect, honesty, and love.
And I'll leave you with this provocative thought, the stranger test again.
Yeah.
If a stranger read your obituary right now, or the one you are writing for a loved one, would they know the person? Or would they just know their statistics?
That is the difference between a census report and a tribute.
It is.
And remember, writing with care prevents regret. A thoughtful obituary affirms a life. It says, this person mattered, this person was here, and this is who they were.
A final act of care and dignity.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We hope this toolkit helps you when you need it most. And if you are listening to this on the Funeral Channel Network, we are glad you are here. Take care of each other, and we will see you next time.